Well, hello, this is Robert Meade and the Power of Imagination. Welcome to my YouTube channel, and I have the honor and privilege of having Dan of Vagabond Awake. His channel is, of course, amazing, and 67 countries and 16 years, and he is phenomenal at helping people learn how to travel more affordably and all the hot spots around the world, wonderful places to travel. And he interviewed me. We're here in the Philippines, and it was our fifth time together?
Fifth time, yeah.
Yeah. And now the roles are a little switched. So this is going to be kind of a combination. I want to be interviewing him, and he's going to be asking me some questions also. But I actually want to interview Dan because Dan's life is very fascinating. His background and how he... Well, how you got to the point where you were traveling worldwide. I would like to, if you don't mind,
Sure.
Not really maybe psychologist, but go back more in your youth. Was there something that influenced you from school or from relatives, or was it just a desire within? When did you get that bug to be adventurous? And, you moved to India, you did all kinds of things that, were not typical.
Yeah.
Took a chance. You gave up a big corporate world and took a big move. How did you get there?
So I've always kind of known I was unusual. I don't know how to describe it, but I've always been sort of curious about the world. And I don't mean like I knew the countries or anything, just like what makes the world tick almost. And I wasn't really interested in a lot of the things that people around me seemed interested in. It was more of a general world curiosity I had, just how, like, it's still even, I can remember, let me just start with this. I remember when I was 8 years old and I was in a treehouse with my best friend. And he said to me, so what do you want to do with your life when you grow up or whatever? And I said, you first, what do you have on your mind a lot? And he said, I can't believe that the universe is infinite. This was a smart kid.
Wow.
And he was talking about, he couldn't fathom that the world was interested. And I said, so, what does that mean for you? Like, what does it make you think about? Or how does it change your day-to-day life? He's like, well, we're just this little speck on this little planet.
Wow.
And infinity is all around us, as far as microscopes or telescopes can see. And so I said, so how does that affect your life? And he said, it just makes me realize that that I have a short period of time that I'm here, and that I need to enjoy my life. So I want to have a family and get married and have kids and have a nice life and enjoy it as best I can, because I realize that that I'm just a small little thing. I'll never be a whatever it say, Jesus Christ or Buddha or whatever. And I was like, wow, that's fascinating. He was a very interesting kid. And he said, what about you? Do you want to have a family? Do you want to have kids? And I was like, I don't know. I guess I want to travel the world. And this was when I was 8 years old.
Oh, 8 years old.
I already knew that was my thing. And there was no like movie I remember seeing where I was like, oh, I want to be like Star Trek.
Yeah, because I was wondering if it went maybe from a movie or a relative. You had an aunt or uncle who had the travel bug, or
I was
really wasn't,
as far back as I can remember. And it wasn't like I said, it wasn't like I knew the countries even. I couldn't even name all the countries, but I just knew that there were from movies and TV and reading about history.
A lot of cool places around the world.
There's a lot of cool places, and I wanted to understand how all these cultures were so different and why they believed in different gods and they ate different foods and the terrain was different. What was it that made people the same and what made them different? It was just a curiosity about the world.
Okay, so that's fascinating. It's interesting because to me, because early on in my life, I had the privilege of being part of a family that liked to travel.
Yeah.
Not so much internationally, but we always did the summer vacation, the campouts by the lake and in the mountains and the snow skiing. I did have kind of a wonderful childhood and great parents. And then we moved to the Bahamas when I was 15.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's where I got the moniker Bahama Bob.
Yeah, that's great.
And then Bali Bobby, and now Philippines. But yeah, so that's very interesting, Dan. So you actually had that bug early on. Now, I don't know for you, but for me, in high school, the most fascinating subject for me actually was geography. I love geography.
Right.
So I would, all my life, I've always been the one who would meet people, and I would often know more about their country than they knew about their country.
Yeah, yeah.
And the other two things for me, psychology to a large extent, but even more so sociology, right, and anthropology. So the origin of people, the origin of cultures, the origin of languages, and how you could trace them all back to the Middle East and Africa and all that. That's always fascinated me.
Yeah.
How really we all have common ancestors, regardless of our nationalities. So that's always been fascinating to me, and sounds like it was for you too.
Yeah, it's, I mean, the idea that the reason we speak different languages is because we moved apart for long periods of time, and the languages transformed. You know, if you go back in time, there were fewer languages, or you know, they spread out as we spread out over the planet, and so we all go back to a common ancestry. So that was fascinating to me, and how things could change so fast, and really not that fast, but how the world just became this different, interesting place.
So during that period of your youth, and I know we could make this quite a long story. Of course, there was marriage and kids and all that.
Yeah, I married a woman with 2 kids. We were together about 13 years, and eventually we broke up. She left me, and which was the right choice, and we both turned out to be quite happy.
So at that point, you were moving up in your field.
Yeah.
And you had an opportunity to move to India.
Yeah, I got.
Is that kind of where it started?
It did.
Big jump.
Yeah. Well, I had one of my best friends at work was born in India, and I had a curiosity because of him, because I enjoyed his company so much. And then he ended up getting some work in India, and he went. He ended up working for a company that had resources in India that they were developing, but I ended up getting to India before him. And it was quite it's such a different culture in India. It's probably not a place that most people could go to for their first country overseas, but it's one of the most fascinating ones in the world. So at some point, I recommend everybody to check out India. It's a fascinating place. But for most people, it's a second, third, fourth country.
Okay, so I'm going to ask you something that you might have to think about a minute, or you might not be spontaneous for you.
Yeah.
But you've traveled the world now.
Yeah.
I mean, 67 countries is is absolutely amazing. In your travels, speaking of sociology and cultures, I know you found good in all of them.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
But how did you maintain that good attitude? Because one of the things we learned from his channel, Vagabond Awake, is his website, Vagabond Buddha, is how to adapt and do things in different countries. But that comes to you naturally now, and it kind of developed over time. I mean, did you ever have those moments where you were like, I can't believe that this country's this way, or this is this, they don't have this or that. I mean, that's what a lot of new travelers go through.
Yeah.
Did that process kind of work out quicker because you had that big India experience?
Great question.
Yeah.
Great question.
Okay.
So yes. So the thing about going to a country that's difficult first is that more. So your mind, when you go to a new, so you have your life figured out in your home country, right? Like you can drive down the street. There's 10 different fast food restaurants you can pick.
You don't even have to think. Your car goes automatically.
Yeah. When sometimes you get to work.
We live on automatic. Really.
You wake up and you arrive somewhere and you go, I don't remember driving here. What? You know what I mean?
I did that many times.
Yeah. So, but when you go to a country that's very foreign to you, it's almost as you're driving, you're just watching. Is that a monkey or that? Why is there an elephant on that street over there? And why is that 3-foot person? They look at 90 years old. It's one thing after another.
In the beginning, it's all shocking, but after a while, it's just the norm. You know, I mean, the other day in my new apartment, I went to the secondary kitchen part. You know, anyway, it was about 6 o'clock in the morning, and I turned the light on, and guess what was on the wall? A lizard about 10 inches, big, you know, big eyeballs, and I just said hello, good morning. I wasn't upset. I wasn't like, you got to get that thing out of here. Again, we live in the tropics here in the Philippines.
Yeah.
Right? You want lizards because they're eating the little bugs.
Yeah.
Right? So,
Exactly.
I mean, but in the beginning, you're like, my God, there's lizards in the house. What are we going to do? And after a while, you're just like, oh, okay, well, you know, it must be a healthy ecosystem here in the neighborhood. You've got plenty of lizards that are.
Yeah.
So, what were some of the things? Were there certain things that were more difficult to get used to for you? Because you talk about on videos, so, you know, for others, but how about for you personally?
I would say it's more related to the new, that sort of newness wears off pretty quick. I would say it lasts maybe 1 to 2 to 3 years, and after that, if you are actually, you know, seeing more places, eventually you get to the point where everything rolls off your back. But you know, things that were difficult early on, I would say. So the things that bother you most are the fundamental things, like
basics that you're used to having all the time.
yeah, like Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? Like sleep, food, water. You know, those things that you just to get your base level of energy. So one of the things I noticed in India is that they have people that are delivering services in neighborhoods. So and they're speaking. Often, like I was in the north, so they were speaking Hindi, and so they would be going down the street on their bicycle, and they would have a basket there with something in it, with a cloth over it, and they would be banging on the bike, and yelling words, which were products or services they were offering, like I'm a plumber, I can fix your leaking water, but you don't know that, you just hear blah 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 blah, blah ding ding ding, blah. You're like, wait, you're trying to sleep, you know, it's 7 o'clock in the morning, and so it's that kind of thing, very fundamental things that you're like, this isn't right. Why do they let this happen here? And your mind will run off with you, and so, or food. You know, sometimes you just want your comfort food. You know, and you don't know anywhere you can go right now to get a mashed potato that has sour cream and mustard and salt and pepper. You know what I mean? And so you have to go to the market, buy the potatoes, make.
And you do most of your cooking at home.
I
so
do.
You've solved that problem.
Yeah.
But I know you still have you're very open and you like local foods.
Yeah,
too.
That's one of the things I think you really have to discover in a new culture, is a few dishes that you enjoy, because otherwise when you're driving down the street and you're hungry, you can't just drive home every time and cook. You have to figure out stuff that you can eat wherever you are.
Okay, so here's a different kind of question. As far as I know, you came from the United States.
Yeah.
Mainly to Chicago and California, was it? Or?
Yeah, mostly California. I've lived in Arizona, California, Oregon, and the DC area for a few years.
Now, I found personally that you can be physically fit and healthy anywhere.
Yeah.
But overall, have you found it more challenging or less challenging? In other words, have your habits, health habits and fitness, because I know you like to run and so forth, you can talk about that with us. Is that something it's ingrained and it's automatic? It doesn't matter what country you're in, where you're at? Has it become easier, more difficult traveling or no?
I would say, so you need a routine, that every morning when you get up, you do that routine. And you have to have a bulletproof routine. So my bulletproof routine is, I have this big orange rubber band that I can use for resistance, for curls and triceps and all that, and push-ups. So I have a set routine I can do even if I can't find a gym. So I get up every morning and I run 5 days a week for 20, 25 minutes or whatever. And then on Tuesdays and Thursdays I stretch. So I work on flexibility after my run. On Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, I do resistance training. Now, if there's a gym nearby and I can find it without any trouble, I go to the gym. If I can't find a gym or I don't know where it is yet because we just got there, it's the first or second day, I get up and I use the resistance band. I use my own body weight.